Hey guys, what's up? Chris Plum here, and welcome back to the channel where we discuss personal finance, investing, real estate, and productivity. And in today's video, I thought I would talk about something that is a little bit personal, but also very relevant in society today, which is that of debt and paying off debt. So according to a study by Northwestern Mutual in 2018, the average American owes just over $38,000 in debt. That is personal consumer debt and does not include mortgage debt. And the biggest component of this is student loan debt. According to the Federal Reserve, the average student loan debt balance is around $32,000 with over $1.5 trillion owed in student loans. So unfortunately, I am not immune to this and did come out of college with student loans and a bit of personal debt as well. And so in this video, I will document my personal journey with debt, how I've gone about paying it down, and why I don't subscribe to all of Dave Ramsey's baby steps. So my debt journey, like many, began when I graduated high school and went off to college. Now, luckily at this point, I didn't have any debt and I had actually worked my senior year, so I was able to save up a little bit of savings. But throughout the first few years of school, I did begin taking out student loans and had also taken out a few credit cards to build up my credit score. Now, I wasn't too irresponsible with these and I didn't buy anything flashy or expensive clothes or toys, but I did have a tendency to eat out a bit more than I probably should have or go out to the downtown area with my friends. And so over the first few years, I built up a credit card balance of probably $2,000 to $3,000. And by the time I reached senior year, I had accumulated about $30,000 of student loans. Now, I did decide to go to summer school and graduate a semester early in order to keep this cost down. But all in all, when I graduated, I had a debt somewhere around $30,000. And then when I moved to California and got a new job, I bought a new car and brought my balance up to just over $40,000. So by the time I sat down and realized I wanted to get serious about paying it all off, this was the figure I was looking at, which was around $40,000. So as I've said on this channel before, I love personal finance, love to research it and learn more. And of course, I wanted to find ways to tackle this amount and pay it down as fast as possible. And in the course of this research, I ran across Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey has a wonderful platform, reaches millions and millions of people, and has helped so many people reach financial freedom, pay off their debt, and live the life that they want to live.
For every one of you listening to Not Retire a Millionaire is absurd.
And so his baby steps, at least the first few of them, go something like this. The first step is to build up a small savings account of $1,000 for emergencies, such as your car breaking down or getting sick and needing to take time off work. So this is his first baby step before anything, before you even start to try to pay down the debt, is to get this small savings account. So I agree with that, and I did that. The second baby step is to pay off all of the debt, lining it up and going in snowball order. So this is where you pay down the smallest balances first, and it's often referred to as a psychological win or psychological advantage when you're paying down debt, because you get some early victories by paying off the small balances, which can then give you momentum to tackle the larger balances. So here I can understand this philosophy, but I, again, being a little bit of a finance nerd, wanted to tackle some of my higher interest loans first as opposed to the smaller balances. And so I kind of did a pseudo snowball where I went for the ones that had the highest percentages first. So I had one loan that I think was over 5%, and I made sure to pay off this one first. And then once that was out of the way, the rest were between 3 and 4%. And those I chose to do as Dave Ramsey suggests and go after the smaller balances to get some psychological wins. Baby step 3 is to build up your full emergency fund, which is 6 months of your living expenses in a savings account. And baby step 4 is to start investing 15% of your take-home pay into retirement. So where I disagree, and it's not a huge disagreement, is that I think that for myself, it makes more sense to combine steps 2, 3, and 4 into one and start my investing early and build up a larger emergency savings fund while I'm paying off the debt. So as I mentioned in my How I Invest video, which I will link above, I choose to take my income and put 10% towards debt, 10% into savings, and 10% into my retirement account. So this allows me to start building up a retirement account early and build that mindset while also paying down my debt, because beyond this 10%, I'm also paying the minimum every month. So it's the minimum, and actually I try to pay a little more than the minimum, that gets paid automatically each month. And then on top of that, every time I get a paycheck, I put 10% into these 3 buckets. And to showcase the difference that this can have financially, let's look at what $20 invested over a period of time can do. So I'm 25. Let's say that I wanted to retire when I was 65. So $20, if put in a retirement account that was growing at an average of 7%, so that's the S&P average of around 10% minus inflation, if it's kept in there for 20 years, that will grow to be about $300, which is fairly impressive, but is not going to help you retire. But now if you take that $20 and you add $20 every week for that same 40-year period, you get to around $192,000. But if you start just 10 years later, that $20, if left alone, amounts to only $152. And if you contribute $20 every month, grows to only $91,000, so less than half. And the reason I chose 10 years is that the average American takes about 20 years to pay off their student loans, which in turn are the biggest portion of most people's consumer debt. So even if you took the Dave Ramsey approach and you got really aggressive and you paid off your debt in 10 years instead of 20, that missed time could cause you to lose half of the compounding effect in terms of the interest over those 40 years or 30 years if you wait. And now to look at it in a scenario that is maybe a little more practical for retiring, if you were able to start with $500 at 25 like I am, and you invested $104 every week, so that adds up to $416 every month, which is just shy of $5,000 a year. And again, with my 10% rule, that would mean you need to make about $50,000 a year, which I think for most people, not all, but for most people is manageable to grow their earnings to be about $50,000. And if you can put 10% away, or $5,000 a year, and you do that for 40 years from 25 to 65, you will have $1 million. Over $1 million by just a little bit. But if you started 10 years later at 35 and started with the same $500, you would have to put in more than double at $220 a week, or $880 a month, which comes out to just over $10,000 a year. I think it's $10,500 just about. So you would have to be making $105,000 a year if you wanted to start at 35 and reach $1 million by 65 with the contributions that I just laid out. Now, obviously, this is a significant difference in the income threshold you need to hit. So that 10 years can make a big difference. And that's one of the reasons that I think it's so important to start building that investing mindset early and not wait until you've paid off all your debt. And so again, just a small disagreement that I have with Dave Ramsey and his baby steps, but I understand why he did it. For some people that are struggling to get started, it needs to be as simple of a process as possible. And I do think his process works for a lot of people to get started and pay off their debt. And this is still very much an ongoing story that I'm happy to keep you posted on and share the rest of my journey. But I am happy to report that because of this method, I have now reached a place where if I wanted to, I could empty out my investment accounts and my savings accounts and pay down the balance of my student loans. So in other words, if I had followed Dave Ramsey's baby steps to a T, I would now be debt free. Now, I didn't do that, and I still do have a balance for my student loans and for my car, but I have managed to get those down significantly and plan to continue with my methods until they are at a zero balance. So to conclude, here are a few tips that I have for paying down your debt. One is to avoid getting into more debt if possible. So live within your means. As Dave says, don't do anything stupid. Don't buy a more expensive car than you need. Don't get a more expensive apartment than you need. And really try to keep your spending and budget down as much as possible. If I'm reaching you when you are young and have not yet gone to college, perhaps consider going to community college for a year or two to get your basic core classes out of the way, and that will save you a lot of money. If you are in the position that you can, maybe stay with your parents a little bit longer to save that money. When you do move to your own place, go for the practical apartment, not the fancy apartment that has all the amenities. And if you do get a credit card to improve your credit score, use it for only things that you can afford with what is on your debit card, and don't spend money that you don't have. Now that we've covered not getting into more debt to help pay down the debt faster, start with the minimum payment that you need to make to appease your creditor and add a little bit. That's what I did for my student loans. And then try to find ways to make extra money or to find a way to contribute more every paycheck. So I work in real estate, so my checks are a little bit more volatile, and sometimes they'll come in big chunks, and others there'll be no payment for a while. So when I do get a payment, like I said, I put 10% into each of those buckets to pay it down faster. The other thing that has really helped me is to track my assets and my liabilities, which when put together gives you your net worth. So when I first started, I really had no idea what I owed, but I sat down and I created a spreadsheet that showed all of my loans, the balance that I owed, and also all of the assets that I had, so my investment accounts, etc. And over time, I've gotten to see those grow, which is super rewarding, and it also helps you with creating goals. So that's another really important thing. Set goals, set benchmarks that you want to hit by certain times, and then really try to adhere to them. One thing that has also been super impactful is visualizing your goals and visualizing your net worth. So I used a piece of graph paper to create a very simple tracking mechanism where each box represented $250, so 4 made $1,000, and I added up all of those boxes to equal my total student loans, and then every time I made a payment, I would color in a little square, and that has been super rewarding and will continue to be rewarding for me as I paid off the remainder of the balance. So I hope this video was interesting and informing, and would love to help others in their debt journey. If you are enjoying these videos, smash the thumbs up for the algorithm and consider subscribing for more content like this. And if you did find a video like this that talks about my debt journey and my personal finances interesting, leave a comment down below and I would be happy to make more videos like this one.